And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Parliament of Geeks. No gavel banging this time around because of soundboard issues this week, so you get the 3 claps. The place where we ask and answer one simple question. Be it weeb or be it scrub. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have 3 of my good brothers here in the temple. We have the living encyclopedia, Good Brother Flutter. We have the man coming off of the Forbidden Door High and hopefully not getting screwed over by Air Canada.
Oh no, I flew Porter Airlines and I'm taking the train home, so I am not getting screwed by Air Canada.
And of course, sorry, I should have said Good Brother Matty, and of course, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadare Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, Good Brother Xanatrix.
Remember, Zadare Enterprises is hiring anybody who wants to be a better localizer than Katrina Leonakis, or however the fuck you say her name. Sign up today!
If I could speak the language, you know damn well I'd be spending way too much time trying to do translations of Japanese tabletop games.
Oh man, you'd join the Sword World team. I know you.
I would join the Sword World team and probably ask the question of, you think we can get Katakawa to work with like Yen Press or somebody for an official translation if we bully them enough?
No need to bully. If you can convey in actual words how much money they'll fucking make, well, they'll do it in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm.
But this week around, we are tackling a little bit of crime fiction and a whole lot of taking notes from Western movies in the form of Akudama Drive. And I know I usually do the skull chant. Once again, soundboard issues, so no skull chant.
But let's elephant in the room. For those wondering, Maggie doesn't sound normal. I'm still in Toronto. I chose the smart way of doing things by not traveling today and not sounding like a fucking zombie. I'm literally traveling tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm. Which is definitely the smart move, because just curious, how many hours of a flight is it from Toronto to Ottawa?
It's so I flew Porter Airlines, but it's normally an hour from Ottawa to Toronto, gate to gate. We're talking 45 in the air, essentially. I'm taking the train tomorrow, which is about 4 to 5 hours, depending on travel and delays. Which is not bad. Hey, I'll sleep on the train a little bit. I have my Nintendo Switch. I've been playing Gears. Which should not be any surprise. So,
you and everyone's mother.
I would pay good money to see a legit engineer play Tears of the Kingdom.
There have been, Monk.
I'm getting links.
Brother?
I don't know if anybody's taken pictures of them, but there are people, both software engineers and actual mechanical engineers, who ask the same question of Nintendo. How the fuck did you make this game in only 6 years?
Well, in fairness, they had about a third of the game done with Breath of the Wild. If you go by context.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like, you go on YouTube and there are swaths of videos of those sick fucks who spend all their living free time, no food, just some beverage to have sustenance, getting all the batteries, the Zone A charges, the Zone I, the charges, the things to make the batteries, and collect all the gimmicks to make weapons of mass villain destruction, as if they knew the minute they had access. That too, because they build them, and any boss on land that was a problem in Breath of the Wild got wiped off the face of Hyrule, like they were Braun Strowman. Like every little Bobacan, every little choo-choo, every little living thing that made your life a living hell and breath turned into James fucking Ellsworth.
I get that.
Haven't heard about No Neck in a while.
I understood that reference. But
well,
glorious.
I have not gone to that point yet, but the minute I am going to get there, I will take sick pleasure in fucking up every giant motherfucker that made in breath.
Nice.
But I'm taking my time with it. I'm having fun by taking my time. The travel, the flying mechanic with the paraglider and all those towers, it is such a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Like that alone, ladies and gentlemen, is a quality of life improvement.
And while we could listen to Brother Matty go
of
on
course,
about
and
this ad nauseum.
By the way, I've heard. I've been to Forbidden Door. It's been awesome. Tune into the WrestleCast for that.
Mm-hmm. We shall now.
Yeah. And long story short, it'll be the last WrestleCast, but follow me on Twitter and Facebook, and you'll get the full deets on that.
Well, that's a bombshell to drop in the opening.
You know what? I'm in a peaceful. I'm in a peaceful mood about it, and I'm riffing. So you know what? Let's go.
Yeah. So, like we do all the time, we spun the wheel, and this time around, it landed on Akudama Drive, which I would describe as a heist story on 3 lines of coke.
And a drop, and not even a microdose, but a full-on dose of LSD. But that's a different story.
Oh yeah, like the art style is on acid for a lot of stuff, and in a good way, very good way.
For those of you who may have watched this, you may have noticed that the character design is very reminiscent of a very good set of murder mystery games known as Danganronpa.
V3 notwithstanding.
And that is because this entire TV series was made, conceptualized, by Kazutaka Kodaka, who famously was with Spike Chunsoft and later created 2Kill Games, who are the co-producers, along with Studio Pierrot, for this show.
By the way, Studio Pierrot makes a lot of sense. Also, for those of you, Spike Chunsoft, alright, for all you Fire Pro guys, calm the fuck down. We're not doing the isometric view wrestling games here.
No, and so
those of you got the joke, you're welcome.
And we're certainly never going to be doing Tiger Mask Double because too many episodes.
Yeah, it's way too long.
Unfortunately, though, if you're asking for a quick recommendation, absolute fucking weeb.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lot of background to this show. The initial idea came when Kodaka was working with Tomohisa Taguchi, the director for this piece. Taguchi was inspired to do something with Kodaka's character designs and art style, and also mix it with one of his favorite movies, Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. And that actually shows a lot in how this show, at least kind of starts. Some other...
You'll note in the I'll jump in on this because I love this fucking anime as well. This is fun. It's fun. One thing you'll note on the character names, they're not actually real names. Like Reservoir Dogs, you have your Mr. Pinks, your Mr. Whites, your Mr. Blacks. In this anime, they are nicknames.
either names of jobs or just titles.
Yeah.
For example, our audience insert, at least at first, her name is Ipanjin, or Ordinary Person. This
Fitting for an
quickly
audience
changes. I mean, it is fitting, but this quickly changes. Now, we will get to that. Some of the other inspirations for Akudama Drive were Pulp Fiction, a small amount of The Usual Suspects, which I know I can already hear Monk grinding his teeth about that one.
Yes.
Oops.
And then the actual art style of Where You Are seems very cyberpunk. But art director Yoshio Tanioka specifically denies a cyberpunk comparison and instead references Japan, Kansai, and Showa. And then just making it really flashy. I mean, there's still definitely some influences of cyberpunk because other influences art-wise were, well, Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell, which are explicitly cyberpunk.
And explicitly futuristic. It's as if they mixed the future with Showa era stuff and storyline, at least from what I'm seeing.
In Showa in particular, the Osaka streetscape from the 60s and 70s.
Which
I'm speaking the same fucking thing.
the thing that I always find funny with
the biggest thing that you can tell about Akudama Drive just from its art and from its setup is that this is a labor of love where people are wearing their influences on their sleeves but still twisting them in a way that is unique. Something we always laud here in the Parliament.
And this kind of thing always amuses me because so often in these kind of discourses you see people act like someone was inspired by this one thing. It is never one thing.
It's always a hodgepodge of various different pieces of content and set pieces.
Because how often have we seen I'll just pick any shonen battle manga and somebody will say, oh, X is a ripoff of Y.
Those people are stupid.
That they are.
Every stupidity / lie has a grain of truth to it. Now, they're fucking dumb for thinking it. Doesn't mean they're completely wrong either. That being said, this is definitely not rip-off territory. If it was, you'd be hearing Little Green Bag at the beginning of the fucking flick.
But with the other thing to note is that even though Studio Pierrot is stated as one of the animators, I've always viewed them as a helper studio for something like this.
Well,
That makes sense.
We can see that because as the art style is obviously inspired by Kodaka and Danganronpa stuff. You can see that in how people are designed. But then like I said, Yoshio Tanioka was the art director for what seems like the rest of it. And there are... I mean, if you guys want to see more about the influences behind Akudama Drive, just the Wikipedia page for Akudama Drive will be good for a taste. But it's not just the art that is super crisp and very stylized. We have, as we'll get into, an audio identity that is world class. And an all-star vocal cast. Now, we do need to note we watched this in Japanese because the show has two versions of the last episode. There's the normal for TV version, and then there's the extended version. And we decided to watch the extended version, which has no English voice casting. But some of the people who are in this show. We have Courier Hakobiya, who is voiced by Yuichiro Umehara, someone you might know from as Eugene Seven Stark from Iron-Blooded Orphans, or gosh, he has so much stuff. He's fairly recent.
He's
2014
Japanese
on.
McClure. You remember him from?
He played Goro in Darling in the Franxx, for any of you who watched that before it went to hell and back. He plays Zoltan Akanen in Gundam Narrative. He plays Kuroi Seshi in One Punch Man. And it continues on. He's actually fairly prolific, and we even heard him in one that we've done previously. Leave. Or one that I was talking about that we should do later. I've heard him in The Misfit of Demon King Academy as the main character. Now, on top of that, as Doctor, we have Megumi Ogata. Anyone who's watched Eva in Japanese knows Megumi Ogata played, well, Shinji Ikari. But she's also played quite a few other people throughout the years.
Get on the goddamn robot.
Akudama and Yu Yu Hakusho.
Okay.
Princess
Season
Emerald
0
and
Yugi.
Yep. Princess Emerald and Eagle Vision in Magic Knight Rayearth. I mean, UA and Cardcaptor Sakura. You've got a lot. She's got quite the pedigree, and she's always a voice that's welcome. We have
long story short, she good.
Yeah, we have our favorite murderer, Satsujinki, who was called Cutthroat in the English version, voiced by Takahiro Sakurai. And anybody who's played Final Fantasy VII in Japanese knows that Cloud Strife Insane is even better.
Yeah!
That's what I continued to call him all throughout this.
Hey, to be fair, if you ever had a dream of Cloud Strife losing his goddamn mind, well, dump that vision. Go watch this anime. Your curiosity and fantasy will be satisfied.
Absolutely. And then, most notably, all of you know that many of us here in the Parliament and in the monastery in general are big Toku fans. And we really liked Kamen Rider Revice.
Well,
So-
I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but so far so good.
Yeah. So, when you hear that familiar name, or at least that familiar voice, as a little hoodlum trying to pass himself off as a big shark in deep waters, well, Hoodlum is voiced by Subaru Kimura, Vice himself, which...
By the way, Vice is the same. It's the same fucking character, just a little more violent. To be fair.
So, along with that, these are just some of the Akudama. We also have the Execution Division. We'll get more into that later. Where one of the people in the Execution Division, the Master, or as his pupil, his deshi continues to call him, Shiso, voiced by the ever-beloved Akio Otsuka. And even some of the characters we don't meet until a few episodes in, like Brother and Sister, are voiced by Maya Uchida and Kana Ichinose. So, we've got an all-star vocal cast here, for sure. And if you look at even the English voice cast, while we didn't hear them, we've got some pretty big names too, especially somebody like Michael Kovac, excuse me. We've got, Brittany Lauda, we've got Jonah Scott. There's quite a few people. We've got DC Douglas. Some names here are absolutely just, you're gonna have a good time with the way that they're gonna bring these characters to life.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, there are the movie references in the episode titles.
Yep.
The 11.
It's weird. I remember in the call when we were streaming these, I distinctly remember saying this is an anime version. If you animate Reservoir Dogs, the Ocean's 11 franchise, and put it on PCP.
Parts of that I can definitely agree with. But except for the final episode, which is named after the show itself, Akudama Drive,
There you go.
the 11 episodes, starting from episode 1, are 7, and yes, it's that 7 with the 7 replacing the V. Reservoir Dogs, Mission Impossible, B. Dead Man Walking, Brother, a Japanese movie known as Lost Children, or The City of Lost Children when it was translated and at least shown stateside.
Oh, that's something we watched in college. That is a good movie.
Black Rain,
Meow, meow, meow.
Meow, meow,
Meow,
meow,
meow, meow, meow, meow.
I knew that was going to come up.
Oh
The Shining,
yeah! It's a shitting. You want to get sued?
Babel, and War Games.
A strange game.
Okay.
But the only winning move is not
Move
to play.
is not to play. Yes, and
And for you wrestling fans, War Games. There you go.
And I would argue that these titles, while a bit cheeky, really do theme the episode they title in certain ways. But Akudama Drive has a lot of care put into it, as we can see from this setup. And with that, I think it's time that we actually ran the gamut of what this show exactly was, or is.
Drugs.
Lots of drugs. This is true. With that, I will leave you to. Yes, I'll leave you to start there, Monk.
So, the first thing to note is the fact that there is a bit of a divide between the regions of Kanto and Kansai. One of them, Kansai is essentially a vassal state, which this kind of thing will be important a bit later on. We start with our ordinary person who works at the Kansai Seal office. And ends up with a case of ordinary person in the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day.
Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, one of those all-time bad days.
Mm-hmm. Because first she tries to save a black cat, not a black cat, but just a cat from getting hit by a car, which causes a bit of a scene. Then, while heading it to a takoyaki stall, and takoyaki's fucking delicious.
It is. No joke. It fucking is, folks.
She noticed that the man beside her had dropped a 500 yen coin. She followed him to try and return the thing. But
Like any good Samaritan would.
yeah. But his attitude is picking up dropped money is bad luck. And she was about to do an e-payment for the takoyaki she ordered, but the owner only accepts cash.
And it just so happens to cost 500 yen.
Mm-hmm. And then the vendor accuses her of doing a dine and dash, and she's arrested.
Because she didn't want to spend the coin she had picked up.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to give it back to the guy who dropped it.
Yep.
Which is the right thing to do.
I mean, when she went up to him and tried to hand it to him and he didn't take it. I'm sorry, in most cases, a normal person would be like, thanks. and just spend it themselves.
Yeah.
Let's just say that ordinary person here, she's a little special in some cases. Just a little.
Yeah.
Yes, a tad.
And it is announced that there will be a public execution later in the evening for a very, very notorious criminal known as an Akudama. Which I believe Akudama would translate to evil soul.
It depends on the kanji.
I believe it depends. Yeah, it depends on the dialect. I think.
The big thing here is that I don't think we actually we technically on the art here there are kanji. It would take me too much time to identify those right now. Mm-hmm. The title as it's officially written is in all katakana. So Akudama could mean sphere of evil. It could mean soul of evil. There are numerous things it could mean depending on the kanji used.
It could mean this doll was set to evil. That's his reference.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But
it looks like someone tried to look it up years ago, though.
Mm-hmm. But beyond that, we end up having a few scenes where several people, including the man who said that dropped money is bad luck, end up getting offered a job. That job involves a down payment of a lot of money.
100 million.
Yeah, 100 million yen. With the deposit already confirmed, to rescue an Akudama known as Cutthroat. The people in the first one who I've just mentioned. He is known as Courier. Later on, we see someone else who is only known as Hacker, who is frankly doing his hacking just to entertain himself.
He hacks in our introduction to Hacker is him hacking into the third most secure database in all of Kansai, the Bank of Kansai.
And afterwards, he's given the same job in the form of a game, i.e., whoever rescues Cutthroat will get 10 million yen. Elsewhere, in a flying bus on the North Ward skies, you have the Doctor. You have a woman known as the Doctor, who is the portrait of "Do not stick your dick in crazy."
Yeah.
He's also older than he looks, people.
Yeah. Long story short, folks. No, not Jodie Whittaker. No. Though that would technically be if that'd be the range. It would show range. Mm-hmm. But no, not Jodie Whittaker. A crazy doctor.
No, one that would probably not be all that far removed from the Repo Man. Not that one, Matty.
No. For a second, I was like, no, that new garbage day. No, I would not.
No, Repo the Genetic Opera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, that makes sense.
Of course, while all this is happening, because of what the ordinary person is stuck in the police station because of the whole thing, and the robot she's arguing with claims that she sounds like a swindler
because she didn't want to pay 500 yen when she had a 500 yen piece.
Mm-hmm. Hence her Akudama name.
Of course, shortly after that, we see one of our other folks, Brawler, who is fighting robots outside the precinct.
Robot police.
Yeah, and he's piling them up quite literally.
Standing on top of the pile like a good brawler should.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You hear that, Brock? Look, I'm in a riffing mood. I'm in a good mood. I'm just gonna throw jokes, okay?
Yeah. Eventually,
They ain't gonna stick. All of them are gonna stick.
Eventually, all of them end up converging because this whole ruckus ends up causing a riot. Since Brawler was given the same mission, and his mindset is, if he's at the precinct where he's going to be executed, let's just barrel our way through into the precinct.
He literally Kool-Aid Man's a fucking wall, okay? They can fight.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, our ordinary person gets who I'm going to be referring to Swindler from now on, ends up chasing after the black cat and gets caught right in the middle of the whole shitstorm.
All four of the Akudama staring her down. Wait, is she a civilian? And, well, Akudama of their caliber, known as Super S-Rank Akudama.
But unlike the video game, Super S-Rank is a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, only a bad thing for normal people. What's a good thing for Akudama?
I mean, for us normies, Super S-Rank bad guys is bad. For them, they're just wondering how the fuck do you speedrun it.
She panics, holding on to the cat. And then she remembers what the robot said. She's like, no, I'm Swindler. I'm not even in the Akudama database. And instead of calling her out on her bullshit, the first person to speak up is Hacker, like, wait a minute. Akudama database. I can't even hack into that. She's like, well, I work at the SEAL the SEAL office. You have an in on the SEAL office? Holy shit, I could never crack that thing.
Every good lie, ladies and gentlemen. Every good lie.
And thus Swindler's first swindle pays off. Mm-hmm. But with that, they go down into the underground Akudama prison, basically. And as they do so, they cause a big mess. And when they cause this mess, it accidentally breaks open a cell where some little hoodlum who only has like 4 years and is a D-rank Akudama instead of the 970 years Cutthroat has, or the 720 years Courier has, or the multiple hundreds of years these Akudama have. He's just a little guy, but he follows them anyway because he figures it'll be safer with them than to try and escape. They all arrive in the place where Cutthroat is about to be executed. And there's like a literal police tank there along with a bunch of cops. And this giant, oh my god, fight. Like, the fights in this show are just masterpieces. They really went in all out for any time Sakuga was needed. And we get Brawler trying to fight the tank with his fists because it's Brawler. We get Courier getting annoyed because his whole thing is he delivers. He's a courier. And anything in his way, he busts out of his way. So he's just annoyed that he's being held down by all these other assholes. But eventually, the restraints on Cutthroat are loosened even while they're fighting. And he kills the police chief, which becomes his 1000th beheading. Whereas the rest of them are all fighting. Even Swindler's, like, trying to get stuff to work. Just by, well, being a distraction in certain cases. Mm-hmm. And finally, the tank is defeated, a bunch of stuff crashes down, and the box that Courier had is delivered to Cutthroat, because that was his job, to deliver the box to Cutthroat. And then Cutthroat, being somehow superhumanly fast, puts bomb collars on everybody, including himself.
Suddenly we've entered Battle Royale!
And then we find out that the black cat Swindler picked up, is actually their employer. That's right, people, you heard it here, a black cat employed them. And to demonstrate the effectiveness of the bomb collars, there were spares that were put on some of the remaining policemen, and their collars are, well, used. convincing everybody else that, holy shit, I should not take this off or I'll die.
Mm-hmm.
But Black Cat has a new job for everybody.
Yeah, this was just the job application.
This is just a job application, and holy shit, was it a pulse-pounding roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. But episode 2 is, as mentioned before, Reservoir Dogs. And it is with this one that we begin to learn what the job actually is, and why it's a case of easier said than done. Because we're committing the 22nd century equivalent to the Great Train Robbery.
Mm-hmm.
Namely, they are going to attack the Shinkansen, the big bullet train that goes between the prefectures, and is treated as an object of worship by a lot of people.
So this is where you get the comparison between the combination of anime plus Mission Impossible plus Ocean's 11.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, they have to attack the Shinkansen, steal a vault from its front carriage, and that's the easy part. The hard part is the fact that they are on a time limit, because if they spend too long on the train, well, the barrier outside of why is it not?
The barrier outside the city is essentially an antimatter of.
Yeah.
It's essentially an antimatter, the antimatter thing every time you enter a level in Portal.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they spend too much time, or they spend too long on one step, and that's less time for all the other steps. Meaning, time is not on your side in this.
Time isn't of the essence.
Oh no, it is.
But while they're discussing this entire plan, they are attacked by the master and pupil of the execution division.
And
now,
I think George Lucas is going to sue somebody.
Yup.
The execution division is a very specific part of the police force meant to deal with and kill Akudama. They go around in pairs, and they have the right to just kill on sight if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason that George Lucas is going to kill somebody... Oh, excuse me, just sue them. Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's already enough killing in Akudama Drive. We don't need George Lucas showing up and killing everybody there.
No.
But, is the fact that they have an electric jite. It manifests like a lightsaber, except it's in jite form.
Mm-hmm.
And,
don't know,
It activates like a
electric knights.
lightsaber. It even sounds extremely similar.
And for those who don't know, nightstick.
the Japanese, it's an old Japanese police armament that looks like half of a sai, except thicker with a longer branch on it.
For all you weebs, smoker.
Yep. Mm-hmm. For all you weebs who want a deeper cut, well, go watch Shinkenger and watch the lantern turn into a person.
Oh yeah, there it is. That's the one.
Ugly out, yeah.
But
Deeper cut.
it's also pretty damn clear that this pair of execution division are not to be messed with, because they barely get out alive. Also, and the thing that's even worse is they were shacked up in a really nice hotel.
Yeah.
Eh.
And then and unfortunately the hotel goes boom.
Bada boom.
That's gonna happen a lot in this series.
Mm-hmm.
But that brings us to episode 3, titled Mission Impossible.
Yep. After the escape from the execution division, and getting out of the nice hotel they crash landed into. Thanks, Brawler. It's Brawler pressing buttons that does things.
Oh, there is one other person we forgot to bring up, who has shown up by this point and has kind of gotten dragged along, and that is the ultimate yes man, Hoodlum, whose appearance keeps making me think of Lupin.
No, we brought him up.
We did bring him up in the first episode, but you are right. Hoodlum at this point has the bomb collar on now. He thinks he shouldn't be in with it, and he is a low-rank Akudama compared to these guys. So, much like Swindler, swindling them into thinking she's an Akudama so good she isn't on the list, Hoodlum decides to kiss up to one of them. And who better to kiss up to than our muscle brain Brawler?
Calling him bro.
Mm-hmm. But he kisses up to him in a weird way. He tells him that he's such a high-rank Akudama, his sentence was 500 million years.
When none of the Akudama that they're with have a sentence that long.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I'd say there was one line in Kamen Rider Double that I feel is applicable here. Brawler is skilled at being fooled.
Yes. Which is, again, another Revice reference, everybody.
He's not foolish. He's skilled at being fooled because, even Hoodlum gets dragged into his own con.
Yep. And trust me, we stand Hoodlum around here. He's super good. Mm-hmm. But yes, Hoodlum's alive. Kind of like Swindler, but she's less obvious about it.
Mm-hmm.
But they discuss their Shinkansen heist about how it's this building, the actual train station, essentially, which is set up as a giant fucking castle in the middle of Kansai. Has so many different...
I wonder what actual building they're referencing.
I don't know. Could be a castle in Kansai, in the Kansai region of Japan somewhere? But, They discuss how there are all these different security measures. They have to go in 2 different ways because they have to press 2 different buttons on 2 different levels of the building in order to get to the actual train platform. Mm-hmm. And then they have to, set off a thing that they don't know what it technically does. In order to bring down the plasma shield that keeps Courier outside, so he can come in. And then they have to bring down the plasma shield on the front of the actual Shinkansen to get inside of it, to get to the front of the train. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you'd like to look at it, the thing that brings down the outside plasma shield is a fucking EMP! And it kills power, except for to a few things. And of course, that starts what they have to do right then and there. The shield on the Shinkansen is not down because it can only be pulled down from the inside, and the only way to get inside is through the cargo loader, which has a specific weight and height and all of that on the manifest for each piece of cargo. Hacker was only able to change the weight of one of them, and it's slightly too heavy for him. So who has to go in but Swindler? Mm-hmm. And she goes in She gets the plasma field down just in time for Courier to jump in with his bike. But then the power comes back on. Yes, exactly. The power comes back on. Flutter's dog wanted in on it too. I can understand. It's exciting. But because
I was gonna say, Rob Breaker, is that you?
Because the power went down and then came back up, it's an emergency reset. So the Shinkansen begins leaving immediately. Their clock has already been started.
Yeah, because once again, this is a case where I wish my soundboard worked, because there are 4 rules you need to remember. Make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, no plan ever survives the first encounter. But
or as Mike Tyson would once famously say, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Mm-hmm. But the next episode is simply called Speed, and if you do not watch one episode every hour, then this bus will explode. Okay, that part.
I was gonna say. Hey, I heard of this movie where you have this bus, and you have to keep it over 50. You have to keep its speed over 50, and if its speed dropped, it would explode. I think it was called the bus that couldn't slow down.
I will always remember how the critic made a parody of had a sketch where it made a parody of Speed with a Speed 2 where the bomb was in a book.
And then Speed 2 actually happened.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, and to be fair, the critic probably would have had a better movie. Just saying.
But to make a bad situation worse, the executioners show up again because they are persistent motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And they managed to somehow predict that the attack was on the Shinkansen.
How? Because why? Because it's science. That's why.
If I had to guess, it was likely Master who had made the prediction on the matter, since he definitely has
the fuck mothering Batman at that point.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, he was the one who made the prediction.
Mm-hmm. Especially since he always has a "I'm one step ahead of you" attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, fuck mothering Batman.
But this entire episode is basically one giant action set piece. I don't know how you can keep up Sakuga for nearly 20 minutes, but you can, apparently.
Yeah.
Because we have Master and Pupil fucking around with Courier and Brawler, Doctor and fucking who was it? I think it was Hoodlum had to try and help out, which was really funny because Hoodlum and Cutthroat was asked to help out by Swindler, because at this point Cutthroat has shown the interest in Swindler, protects her from everything he can. I think any attention from a bloodthirsty murderer, even if he's in love with you, is unhealthy interest.
We've all heard
As we'll soon bring up, and as we'll get to, that interest gets bad.
I mean, it's bad
As
from
you'd
the get-go.
expect.
It just
As
gets
you'd
worse.
expect.
It just
Yeah.
gets worse because he gets crazier. Crazy Cloud Strife gets crazier. Who would have thought?
Anyway,
But
eventually, when they do reach the last carriage, it turns out that the key to unlock the vault is inside the cat, which disintegrates into ash, and the vault opens, revealing the actual clients.
Well,
2 kids.
yes. The cat dissolves into ash except for one hanko, or seal. That's what the whole seal center is about. For those of you who don't know a lot about Japanese society and some of their customs, hanko are personal seals. They're used as legal stamps. You can use them in lieu of a signature, and anyone can get one, so long as they register with the seal offices in Japan.
This is
It's a-
this is why stamps were able to be a theme in Revice.
Yes, that was which once again parallels. But yes, the stamps in Revice are kind of supposed to be indicative of hanko just a little. But yeah, the vault opens and we get to see a little boy and a little girl. Brother and sister, as they are called.
See, even the people with the money, they even got nicknames.
Additionally, as they unseal these people, the Sakuga comes to a close, with Courier driving into the front car and using the giant fuck-off laser built into the front of his fucking bike to laser off the rest of the Shinkansen before Hacker stops the Shinkansen from getting to the final boundary that would turn them all into disintegrated nothingness.
Which, as an aside, I pointed this out before, but 1, I want that bike. 2, I feel like somebody on the design team looked at the bike in Akira and said, "We can do better."
Yes, this was definitely a case of Akira going, "Here's my bike," and Akudama Drive going, "Hold my beer."
Yeah. Hold our beer.
Yeah. And the reason I say that, the reason I said what I said earlier is the Black Cat was, for all intents and purposes, a proxy. One that the boy was using from behind the scenes.
Well, he kind of had to. He was stuck in a fucking vault.
Uh-huh.
We were literally playing safe crackers. Extreme safe crackers, but safe crackers nonetheless.
But that brings us to episode 5, Dead Man Walking.
You've done it now.
Now, I would like to note that all of this Marvelous Sakuga has some really cool blow-by-blow going for it. Which means, of course, our erstwhile cast is getting hurt. Even with Doctor fixing them up, they're still getting hurt. Brawler got a hole in its fucking stomach.
Yep.
The first time they encountered the execution division. But she has patched it up every time it's started spurting again because he's stupid and doesn't allow it to heal.
And to be fair, he's Brawler.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see why people call him Human Knuckles. Thank you, KR.
But the big thing here is they're in this desolate wasteland, which is outside of Kansai. And this is where some of the background that we've been seeing with Bunny and Shark, 2 mascots of Kansai that come up as a sort of educational TV show every so often, and they also serve as info bombs in a very unique way that doesn't feel intrusive. Like, it's absolutely intrusive. They pop up, you're like, holy shit, it's Bunny and Shark. But it feels like it's just part of the thing. Like, I don't think any one of us ever complained about Bunny and Shark showing up.
No, we didn't.
It's also
In
a
fact,
bit of dark comedy with how they present info.
Exactly.
And I think Zan, I think you had brought up Get to Know Nadesco when we first saw it.
Yes, I said it was Naze Nani Nadesco, and you agreed with me. I also brought up constantly that we were having a man-eater and a war criminal on screen, and I couldn't understand why. Those of you who know, you know.
Yeah.
And even the doctor had gotten cut up a few times, but for whatever reason was able to stitch herself back together.
Which is, understandable. But this desolate wasteland exists because there was a great war on Earth. And Kansai and Kanto are ostensibly the only regions left on Japan. We're never told about the rest of the world, ever, actually. But ostensibly, these are the only two regions of Japan that exist anymore because of this great war. So everything else is this coked, dirty wasteland. And they have to go with brother and sister because brother and sister have this really nice set of technology in a randoseru. And for those of you who don't know what a randoseru is, it is the elementary school red backpack you see elementary schoolers wear in Japanese media.
Yep, including a container that can make meals, quite literally.
A bento box that makes whatever you ask for, except soup or anything that is wet food. But it does it by literally reconstituting matter from the air. So it's, for those of you who are, into Star Trek, it's Trek's replicators, but better.
Or if you're just in anime mode, think of it as a cutie honey lunchbox.
Nice, very nice. But they also have the recorder that puts the whole shield around them, so they don't get choked with all of the disgusting radioactive garbage outside in the atmosphere. Among many other things, the backpack is actually a technological marvel. As is the boy's hat, which can be used to hack things with the swipe of this cap, as we see a few times. Hacker is very impressed by all of this, except for the fact that, Hacker has decided he's done with the job. They got the kids out, but the kids are like, we want to go back to Kansai to visit a place. We don't want to actually go to Kanto. And Hacker's like, I don't want to do it. And Brother's like, the bomb collar around your neck. And he's like, I hacked that open.
Yeah, about that. Bye, fuckers.
Yeah, he's like, it took me a while, but Kanto Tech eventually couldn't stand up to me. I'm going to proceed to Kanto without you. Thanks, guys. And then because Swindler said at one point that his drones were cute, and she asked if she could have one, he gives her one. Because Hacker's a little bit of a softie, it seems.
Also, not point.
Hey, you're not supposed to point out Chekhov's gun, Maddie.
And I'm not supposed to be doing all the wrestling jokes, but we're past beyond that point at this point.
This is true. But so they go back to Kansai sans Hacker. We are down our first Akudama. Unfortunately, Hacker was cool.
Yeah.
But they decide that they're going to a place called Expo Park. They're not sure why they're going to Expo Park.
For the record, folks, no, not Montreal Expo Park. No, not Expo 67. No, wrong one.
But they're going to Expo Park.
They are not Expo 67, and certainly not Olympic Stadium.
Folks, if you know, you know.
And the entrance to Expo Park is at a specific set of coordinates that they have the numbers to, and Courier is able to identify all of them except for one set of numbers that didn't seem to make sense. It'll make sense when we get there. It says brother. Almost literally says that. But they decide that they're going to go through the sewers at the north end of the city instead of just coming back in from the direction of the Shinkansen, because they're pretty sure the execution division will be looking for them. And sure enough, in some of the B-plot scenes we see of master and pupil inside a bed, because when they cut off the back of the Shinkansen, remember how I said there was a bunch of radioactive choking garbage in the atmosphere out there? Yeah, they got exposed to that. Not to mention, it's very likely that the rest of the Shinkansen derailed after being cut off from the engine. So they were beat up pretty badly, and they're in a hotel, or not a hotel, hospital. Excuse me. What am I thinking? Hospital, hotel. Same difference. One's just a little more specialized. Might as well be the same to Doctor, though, right? Haha, that's a reference to a later episode. They decide that they're going to go from the north to avoid what would obviously be happening. At the same time, Master sneaks out of the hospital, looks at Estelle covered in numbers. And I made the astute observation, or, well, it couldn't really be an astute observation because I'm the only person who had seen Akudama Drive before everybody else. But I made the astute comparison to the wall of stars in the CIA HQ. You know, don't really know who's there. It's just tracking everybody who's died. And it seems like Master is saving his resolve, setting himself up. Because when the Akudama get to the sewers, there he fucking is! I don't fucking know how he thought to go north! Like we've established, he's
mothering Batman.
Yes, he is the fuck-mothering Batman. This is true.
Thank you.
Plus, I do not feel like questioning the anime dad.
Akio Otsuka, yes, that's true. But at this point, even though he's hurt, even though he's been hurt in the fight on the train and because they were exposed to the elements, Master's not holding back his punches. But he also can't throw his strongest punches because he is injured. Him and Brawler are going head to head. Eventually Cutthroat gets involved, and then fucking, like, before they actually start fighting, Master sneaks up on Doctor and cuts her in half at the waist. Then, when he's fighting Brawler and Cutthroat, he cuts off Cutthroat at the knees! Literally! And at one point, as Cutthroat is throwing knives at Master to distract him while Brawler's trying to beat the hell out of him, Master decides, okay, I'm gonna fucking kill Cutthroat first. He's annoying. And Cutthroat grabs Brother from Swindler and holds Brother in front of him as a human shield, which Master has to stop because Brother and Sister, as we have found out from the scenes with the Executioner Division's boss, they are considered offerings, or what would be a better word than an offering?
Sacrifices.
Sacrifice. Well, that comes later.
Donations.
I'm thinking of the best word. Tribute.
Tributes. There you go.
Tribute to Kanto. And so he can't damage the goods. But Cutthroat can. He literally thrusts his arm through the back of the super technological backpack, god damn it, Cutthroat, and through the front of this little kid's chest to stab Master. But it isn't quite enough to kill him. He's like, oh man, I can't get a good stab without legs. That's literally what he says.
Yeah, that's what he says.
That was probably the funniest part of that episode. But at that point, Swindler freaks the fuck out. What would you? And he's like, but I wanted to see the red, which is a thing he says a lot.
I like. Yeah, he is the murder boy version of Goldmember. I like red.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, Hoodlum has been trying to help out, but it's Hoodlum. Doctor has sewed herself back together. You can actually see the stitching at her navel point. Yes, she stitched herself back together. No, I'm not going to explain how she did that. Fuck you, that's how.
I consider it a missed opportunity that throughout this whole series, with all the restitching she does, that none of us made a Humpty Dumpty joke.
Oh,
I didn't make a Humpty Dumpty joke, but you all missed when I made a Sally joke.
Fuck, yeah, you're right.
You all missed when I said it, and I was like, oh, I wasn't going to say it again because the comedic timing had passed. Mm-hmm. But, She even sews Cutthroat's legs back onto Cutthroat. And she, of course, sews up Brawler again. But eventually, Courier takes the kids to get past Master, while they all hold up Master, to get them to Expo Park. And in the end, we get this marvelous scene. Hoodlum's following around Cutthroat and Master as they're fighting, or not Cutthroat, Brawler, excuse me, as they're fighting. And Brawler even says something like, "You're finally cutting loose, aren't you?" And Master's like, "Maybe I am." And we get these scenes overlaid with some B-roll with Pupil, or I like to call her Disciple because that's what Deshi actually means. Disciple talking to the Execution Division boss, going, "Do you know why I made all the Execution Division members act in pairs? Prior to doing so, less than 30% of Execution Division members would live through a single year, basically. And afterwards, over 90% do. You shackle each other as a reason to live, because the only real difference between Akudama and the Execution Division is the drive for justice. Otherwise, you're both as wanton in your destruction as an Akudama." Which is a unique bit of foreshadowing, to be honest.
It is,
Boss then says, "The reason Master left you behind is because he finally brought up the resolve to throw his life into the ring." And Deshi freaks the fuck out. And so she travels out, she leaves trying to follow Master out to keep him alive. But we get the final confrontation between Brawler and Master on an old train bridge with lightning flashing in the background. And as they hit each other, the lightning cracks and it goes black.
Which, that's fucking beautiful.
Oh, it was so good. We then go over to the rest of the Akudama and the entrance to Expo Park, and they're all talking to each other. Where's Brawler? Where's Hoodlum? We then come back to the train bridge with both Master and Brawler lying face up, bleeding out in the rain. And Disciple shows up. Master's basically breathing his last. And she has dropped her electric Jite, and he dropped his in the fight. But she picks up his as she hears steps behind her. And the steps are Hoodlum, walking up to Brawler, picking up the Jite she dropped, and charging her. And that's the end of the episode. At least for that part.
Yeah. Which that was actually a pretty good fake out in the as revealed later.
Pretty good fake out until we watch the next episode stinger. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's one criticism I could give, the next episode stinger should not show us a character we think is dead isn't dead.
Don't worry, kids that are actually adults, because no kid would watch this or should watch this. He's gonna live.
I mean,
Thanks for ruin that fucking tension for a week.
I mean, I watched Cowboy
like
Bebop when I was under the age of 15.
Shh.
But in the beginning of the next episode, Hoodlum does eventually show up at the entrance to Expo Park. And Brother reveals, yeah, that last set of coordinates, it's down. They're vertical coordinates. And he reveals that Expo Park is underground. Mm-hmm. And we go underground after learning from Hoodlum, or at least the rest of them learn from Hoodlum, that Brawler is dead. And he gets really upset at Doctor and a few others who make fun of it. But then relents on the confrontation. And they both find out there's a story that brother tells of why he's still alive. Oh yeah, forgot to mention. After Cutthroat put his entire arm through this kid's chest, the kid just closes up like it's nothing. He has an immortality factor. He is immortal. He and sister both are. They and brother and sister are test subjects. Brother was technically a number of like 2,500 and something, which was the number of other children that were melted into a genetic slurry and put into him. And sister is a conglomeration of like 5,000 and something. Again, the number of children turned into a genetic slurry and put into her. We learned that he used to have an issue where every day he would be essentially torn apart, killed, etc., to test his immortality while he was in this test center. And the only solace that he had in this was he was protecting the rest of his friends, or so he thought. And his friends even appreciated him for that and made him a nice little charm bag. Yes, that charm bag is important. That's why I mentioned it. But one day, after the tests, he comes out to the common area where he would always meet the kids. There's nobody there. And the black cat, who is controlled by a different AI at this point, is talking to the headmaster of this quote-unquote school. And they're saying, "Rejoice! You're a successful test subject." It's like, "But what about all my friends?" And they shine a light underneath this gymnasium floor, and it's a giant vat full of dead kids.
See you in your nightmares, kids.
They're like, "Oh, don't worry, your friends will be with you, right inside you." Oh, also, these friends here, well, sister comes out. They're in her. And so brother tells...
Crazy.
I know what I said.
Well,
But-
just an audience analog. There's going to be people going, "Hey, phrasing."
But he tells sister that he will be her older brother and that he will always protect her however he can. And the cat, controlled by an AI that had compassion, is actually named, or they called him Professor because he was their teacher. And he actually was the one to give them the tools that they have, the Randoseru, the bento box, the recorder, the cap, all of it, to try and help them escape. And he actually took control of the cat when it dissolved to nothingness the first time, using the cap. Once they find out those origins, they find out exactly why they've gone to Expo Park. Expo Park has a surviving rocket, and they want to go to a place that is away from the war-torn hellscapes of the Earth. They want to go to the moon.
Yeah, the thing about that is...
The thing about that is Doctor is a bitch. And turned everybody into the fucking execution department.
Also, that she could get her own sentence dropped.
Yeah, so that she's no longer an Akudama, so she can continue to experiment on the immortal children.
Because her obsession is with trying to control death.
Now, that may sound weird. What do you mean by trying to control death? Don't you mean eternal life? While she goes into detail about this in a much later episode, it's actually good to reveal it here to explain her motives. She wants to control, down to the very mechanism and timing, the act of death. She wants to control how people die, why people die, when people die, including herself. And she believes the kids are the key to that. That if she can figure out how they're immortal, she can control death to such a degree that death will either never threaten her again or threaten anyone she wants whenever she wants. Yes, Doctor is a complete and utter fucking psycho bitch.
No!
Like I said, don't stick your dick in crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We won't talk about that one yet, Monk. That one still hurts. That episode still hurts. We'll get there.
Oh yeah.
But what Brother does is he pushes Sister and Swindler into the rocket because it's about to launch, while Courier and the rest are trying to get away from the execution division. Brother uses a few of his tricks and his own existence to distract the execution division, and everybody gets away. Hoodlum gets away, Courier gets away, Cutthroat gets away, I'm not sure how. Doctor gets her sentence dropped, and as we've already established, Hacker's gone and Brawler is, well, dead.
Yep.
At this point, also, it's good to note that Hoodlum actually saw Brother's good luck charm, and because he dropped it at one point and handed it back to him. Remember that for later. But with that, after we leave this city of lost children, the rocket crash lands back on Earth because what was revealed before everybody escaped, what was revealed by the boss of the execution division is, you really think you can escape
the moon.
God damn it.
Be blunt, dude.
No, I was gonna say, you really think you can escape to the moon? Nah, fuck this! And turns off holographic projectors that are all around the moon and says, our war on Earth even reached that motherfucker! And it's all broken apart and exploded. And, so they crash land, and Swindler, bless her soul, still thinks she's a normal person. Her and Sister go into Kansai, up to a takoyaki stand that accepts Hanko stamps. But remember, everybody in Kansai has a Hanko stamp, and she used to work in the seal office. And she's been marked as a Super S rank Akudama at this point. So when she tries to pay for it, Super S rank Akudama Swindler! Everybody watch out! And they have to run like hell.
That ain't good.
Yep, they have to run like hell back out into the dumps.
Yep.
At one point, though, Doctor and Hoodlum encounter each other. And Hoodlum gets tied up with her. She's about to kill him until he says, wait! I know I can find Brother. She's like, how? I'm like, I planted a tracker on his little charm. Told you to remember that for later. And they go to search for Brother. Brother, however, is in the auspicious hands of the execution division. Specifically in the hands of Disciple and her new partner. They call him Kohai, so underclassman if you want to be literal, or subordinate if you want to be more, in theme. So now instead of it being master and disciple, it's disciple and subordinate. And
Their names, just keep that in mind and move on.
Mm-hmm. Swindler and Sister get to an abandoned garbage plant and eat the canned food inside while cleaning themselves off of all the muck and grime that they have. And Swindler also cuts her hair short. Now, there was a mention that at one point in the second half, Yamauchi revised Swindler and Sister's design for the second half because they were inspired a little bit by when Kara disguises her and the child in Detroit Become Human.
However, this manages to avoid all the problems with that particular pair in Detroit Become Human, largely because David Cage isn't involved. Remember, I like dogs.
Oh, Brian Deschart, we love you. But when they eat and clean up and get everything set, some thugs enter the place and are like, "Hey, it's a little girl and an adult girl. The adult girl's probably not a virgin." And Swindler goes, "No, I am." They're like, "Oh, well, you'll be valuable too." And she manages to kill 2 of them and injure a third. And then Courier shows up and kills the third. And then it turns out that Courier has the little charm bag, and he gives it to Sister. So the tracking bug is not actually on Brother.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
It's a case of I don't know, would you say reverse trap?
Phrasing, Monk.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a case of the hunters becoming the hunted, becoming the hunters, becoming the hunted again, essentially.
Yeah.
And Courier takes Sister and Swindler to hit one of his many hideouts where they eat all of his food because they're starving. And he's a little pissed off about it, but not like in a super bad way. He's like, "You ate all my supplies."
Yeah, and
Like-
in all fairness, Courier is not exactly a social butterfly.
He's brusque, he says very little, and he's focused on his job. And then Courier is all about the money. And Swindler's like, "I'll give you everything I have," which includes the money, the $1 billion that we got from getting the kids in the first place, "if you'll help me take these kids or get Sister back together with Brother." He's like, "Fine." And then the last scene in this episode, which is Black Rain, by the way.
Meow, meow, meow.
Yep, that's what I was waiting for that one. Is Cutthroat, whose leg is kind of hurt from the fight in Expo Park.
By the way, I thought Monk was handling the episode column.
Yep. He finds the rocket, and he's like, "I'm gonna find Swindler."
Hey, Monk, you got taken over by your own guard there.
No, I'm perfectly willing to have other people carry the load so I don't blow my own voice out. Again.
Very fair.
I mean, I will admit I'm during a lot of these parliaments, if it's me and Shades, we're usually the ones talking all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
But with that, we get to episode 9, The Shining.
You want to get sued? Love that Treehouse of Horror, folks. I'm not kidding.
But Courier and Swindler decide that they need to get to the execution division to get Brother as soon as possible, because that's where he is. And Swindler posts on social media that the Akudama are going to take over Kansai.
Of course, the populace, which, if you notice, the populace takes it with the normal kind of decorum you would expect from the populace.
They start rioting. Anyone who's an Akudama on the streets, no matter their rank, the people start killing in the streets. "This guy's a rank D Akudama! Get him!" Like they grab and tie up police robots to use their scanners to find out if someone's an Akudama. And they eventually when Swindler and Courier and Sister get to the executioner's headquarters, they get to a room that is dark with a pile of dead bodies made by Cutthroat. And Cutthroat's like, "It's a cake I made for you." Yes, he literally says it's a cake.
Yeah, it's true.
And then he's like, I've been waiting for you, Swindler. Now it's time for me to see how red you bleed.
Translation? Come play with me, Swindler. Forever and ever and ever.
So Swindler jumps off the bike, tells Courier to get sister to brother, and goes on this merry game of tag with an injured Cutthroat, trying to get away from him, trying to distract him. Eventually, the little drone she received falls out of her bag, rolls into this locked vault door that opens up, and is full of electric GT. So she hides in there, closes the door. Cutthroat knows, though. Cutthroat can find her. Cutthroat can see her. And it's revealed through Cutthroat's eyes that what it is he sees this little red halo she had at the very beginning. A red halo no one but him can see. And that red halo has been getting bigger and bigger throughout their
redder and redder and
redder and redder. And he was always tempted to kill her, but he had to hold back. She was going to be the best red he ever saw. The best red he ever could.
Damn it. Apologies for cutting you off, Sam, but god damn it, KR. Really?
What did he say out of the chat?
He called it the red velvet cake.
No, that's a good pun. That is a good pun.
It's not even a pun.
No.
Monk, it's good. It's a good joke.
I'll allow it.
I can still groan at it. You can't stop me.
Same here, especially as someone especially as someone who's one of his favorite flavors of cake is red velvet.
I guess we have to worry about Flutter murdering us at a con then, don't we?
No, don't. No, all we have to do is just grab his ankles and then hook them on something.
Is he that short?
Hell, I'm shorter than both of you. That'll never happen.
Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
I'm 5'11". Both of you are 6 feet tall.
Bitch, I'm 5'11". You're not that small.
So does this mean we have to? Does this mean we have to then hang Flutter and Maddie?
To them, they are.
Maddie's not on the list.
Oh, this is true.
Anyway.
Maddie can help us hang him. There we go.
Anyway.
But
don't worry. All we do is just hang you up on a coat hanger.
yeah, that should be enough.
You know, you've all seen Johnny Dangerously.
Exactly. but this red vortex that has been above her, this halo, has become so big he can see it from anywhere. And it's how he can find her. And we don't understand how he can see it. It's just his psychosis. But that's how he knows she's behind the vault door, even though he didn't see her go into it or close it. He's like, please, come out and play. And she's like, I'll let you in only if you promise not to kill me. He's like, fine, I won't kill you. I won't kill you. He gets really whiny about it. Takahiro Sakurai does really good voices. And she opens the vault door, and he comes in. He's like, I'm sorry, I lied. I have to kill you. I need to kill you. And she's like, oh, yeah, I figured. And she stabs an electric GT into one of his feet. And then she fights with him a little bit. And then finally, she stabs him in the chest. And he's like, I can't see anything. His eyes have gone dark. And he falls over. And with that, Swindler has not only killed 2 little punks, but the most notorious Akudama to ever live. Mm-hmm. And then Courier and Sister come past the vault and they're like, say, Maddie?
Somewhere, Master's going, bitch stole my kill!
Somewhere in the afterlife. Mm-hmm. But Courier and Sister combine like, come on, we need to get to the roof. And they get to the roof just as the heli, what do you just call it, a vertical takeoff and landing helicopter of sorts, some sort of helo, runs off with Brother.
Mm-hmm. Of course, while this is happening, the civilian uprising has been getting worse. and the chief of police is pissing himself, whereas the head of the execution division is like, "Oh God, what are we gonna do now?"
And then she gets a bright idea.
By bright, by bright we mean going fucking crazy.
Yeah. Declare all of the rioters Akudama.
Like that's gonna fucking help.
By declaring them all Akudama, she could then send the execution division after every one of them. And she did.
It did not work.
No. And episode 11, War Games, is where we see what the actual nature of that barrier into that barrier in Kanto actually is.
Bit of a skip there, Monk. We haven't gotten through to the best part of Babel.
All right.
In Babel, they're going back to the Shinkansen to ship Brother off to Kanto like they were told to.
Mm-hmm.
And the rioters are still rioting. The executioners on the outside are still executing Akudama that have been declared amongst the rioters. And everyone, everyone remaining, Hoodlum, Dr. Swindler, Sister, Disciple, and Subordinate, all show up top. They disrupt the action of Brother's case being sent into the train. But Doctor tells Disciple not to ship off the boy because she needs him to do her experiments. And when Disciple says, "No, I'm gonna fucking kill you," she's like, "Oh, I'm not an Akudama anymore. You kill me, you become the Akudama." And she also puts a needle inside Subordinate's heart. One that if she pulls it a certain way, will kill him. And then Hoodlum, having spent a hot and steamy night with Doctor in a hotel where she explained her motivations about wanting to control death, and also noting, "How old do you think I am?" Hoodlum wisely shut up at that point.
He was,
wisely shut up at that point.
He decided, okay, I'm not going to stick my dick in that level of crazy.
But Hoodlum has a scalpel from Doctor and is holding it to Swindler's neck. And Courier is like, "Shit, I can't shoot Doctor because Hoodlum will slice Swindler's neck." And a line that Doctor had said to Courier on the Shinkansen when they were fighting Master and Disciple before, because he only knocked out Disciple, was, she told him, "You really shouldn't be such a feminist." And then when this happens, she's like, "I told you you should stop being a feminist." But
You keep saying that word. I do not believe it means what you think it means.
in Japan, it means something a lot different than what it means over here.
I know the joke I made. I'm standing by it.
I know. I'm just enhancing your joke.
You're
But-
not.
You know what? I did, though. So there. You couldn't stop me. Regardless. At that point, Swindler talks about how Hoodlum was so close to Brawler and was so much happier and courageous when he tried to follow in Brawler's footsteps. And she's trying to convince him that he could be better. He just needs to stop doing what she says. And there's this back and forth, and eventually Doctor says, "If you're really going to follow in that meathead's footsteps, you're going to die the same way I let him." Which, she actually sewed together the hole in his stomach from the very first time Master stabbed him in a way that it would open up and continue to bleed, so that he'd eventually bleed out, because she saw him as the most troublesome obstacle in her way. This pisses the fucking hell out of Hoodlum. He throws Swindler to the side, charges Doctor, stabs her in the carotid artery. says, "Just like you taught me to." And then she cuts his throat. She's like, "Yeah, just like I taught you to." But because she's bleeding out, she's having some trouble with her hands to sew up her neck. And then all of a sudden, the doors open to allow a bunch of people onto the Shinkansen, which lets them on for no reason. And because they're in a panic, they don't care who's on the floor. And they trample this bitch to death. It was such a good scene and felt so goddamn good.
Yeah, this is the choke
so
on moment.
Mm-hmm. Brother Courier, Swindler, and Sister go on the Shinkansen as well, while Disciple and Subordinate stay behind. And that's when we get to War Games.
And as far as War Games, this is a case of mindfuckery through a good chunk of this episode. Mostly because the barrier is meant to trap people in a digital paradise. So
and break down their body at the same time.
We end up seeing what looks like what happened before, but certain things aren't right. Namely, Courier acting way too friendly.
And Swindler acting way too besotted with Courier. Not to mention, we see Courier's past as a kid. And we learn why he thinks that dropped money is bad luck. It got his mentor, which is heavily implied to also be his mother, killed. And it's what lost him his arm, because he's had a mechanical arm this entire time. Forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got one of them Tears of the Kingdom arms.
A Zonai arm? What? But it's this parallel thing where we see the life of Swindler as normal. In fact, when she gets the 500 yen piece in front of the takoyaki stand, the courier she meets thanks her for handing him back the money and drives off. And then she goes home and she has a normal day. But things start repeating, and she starts seeing the 500 yen piece drop again. And things start repeating for Courier, too. And eventually, they're both facing these versions of themselves, because they're in two different parallel mindscapes. And they both say to these fake versions of the other, "You're not them. They have a much shittier mouth than you do."
Also, KR clarified the whole thing with Courier's master. Taguchi has stated that she's his caretaker.
Which might as well be a mother in all but name.
Yeah, he originally clarified that she was his. KR originally clarified that he thought that Taguchi said that his master was his stepmom, but he then corrected himself by saying that she was his caretaker.
That's a fascinating bit of info, but you know my policy about stuff that is outside of the work.
Fair enough.
Yep.
As it is, Hacker shows up as the drone that Swindler has had with her. And he reveals that he was able to save his psyche, but not his body. So he can attach himself to other devices. We see Kanto for what it is. a complete physics mindfuckscape. Everything is floating in midair, but it's all rubble. There's this one weird device that is constantly shape-shifting and changing forms that is revealed to be the master server for Kanto. Where
Long story short, Hacker turned himself into Cave Johnson, but better.
Do you mean...
Am I wrong?
Do you mean
Cave
Caroline?
Johnson from Portal 2. Or Caroline, yeah.
Because Cave Johnson didn't turn himself into anything in Portal 2. He died.
I know. But, I mean, the Cave Johnson joke is better.
Yeah.
I guess.
Point
Okay.
is,
Hey, I know it's inaccurate, but we gotta go. Yeah,
this thing, which for whatever reason keeps reminding me of one of the early angels in Ava, specifically the one that was a giant crystal.
Ramiel, the one that screams when it shoots a laser.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Oh, is meant to be this master computer of Kanto, because apparently the entire population of Kanto decided to become one super consciousness.
Well, more like they all went into transhuman singularity.
Mm-hmm.
They've all gone into a digital world. It almost reminds me of Expelled from Paradise, Rakuen Suiho, which is a really good movie that everybody should watch. But the computer is a physical computer. Computers, through usage, break down. So what Kansai was designing the entire time was a new terminal that would never break down. Brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. They are literal fucking computers.
Because of their physical immortality, they will never break down as parts. The only thing they have to do then is overwrite their brains.
So, kill them.
Mm-hmm. Which Swindler is not going to allow to happen. And she keeps jumping at the core to try and release them from this download process. But it keeps sending out a literal gravity wave every time she gets close. And of course, Courier's kind of shooting at it. And Hacker decides to help them. He's going to hack the mainframe of Kanto to release the children. And he does so. And unfortunately, it damages his data engram, which would be the proper word for what this is, to the point of no return. So he gives Swindler one last hacking program on her phone. We see it as a little bear icon. And then he dies. And Swindler and Courier decide they have to go back to Kansai because the one other thing Hacker showed them is that a part of Japan exists that is not under Kanto or Kansai rule and is not ruined. And they have to take the kids there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they start going back on the Shinkansen. And as the Shinkansen gets back to Kansai, the execution division shoots it down. Now remember, the Shinkansen is an object of worship for the populace. And this sets the populace into high tension.
How dare you fuck up our train?
Mm-hmm. And this gets us to the last episode, Akudama Drive. The crash broke Swindler's leg. He is not going to be able to go along quickly. And the execution division is closing in. So she gives Courier the 500 yen from the very beginning of the show. Says, this is you may think picking up, dropped money is bad luck, but this is a 500 yen piece that has changed people's fates and lives, my own included. This is more valuable than even the 1 billion yen I gave you earlier. Take the kids and run. He's like, okay. And as the executioners close in, Courier wraps up her leg, gets a makeshift crutch, passes under this specifically an oddly cross-shaped piece of concrete rubble, and says, "I'm just a normal person! I'm just an ordinary girl! My house was here, and it fell down on top of me! I need help!" And there are drones watching this whole thing while the execution division is doing what they're doing. And the execution division is like, no, it's totally Swindler. Even though her hair's cut and she's in different clothes and shit, it's totally Swindler. And so one of the execution division is like, I just want to get out of here, and dashes down and impales her onto this cross-shaped piece of concrete. Thank you, obviously foreshadowing imagery.
Yeah. Of course, I should note that just before this, Swindler gets her little entrance graphic that everybody else had gotten.
That says Swindler in how many years? Yeah, because now she's fully stepped into her role as an Akudama. Everybody else in the very first episode got entrance graphics when they were introduced as Akudama, and now she does too.
Yeah, her title, her rank, and the title, rank, and how many years on the sentence.
Her sentencing hadn't been given any numbers because, well, she hadn't gone to court yet. But she gets impaled to the piece of concrete, and then we see that all of the citizenry is watching this. That for some reason it's been broadcast to every screen. And her just saying, I'm an ordinary person, in such a convincing way, causes the crowd to go apeshit. The execution division's killing normal people! They're supposed to kill Akudama! What the fuck's going on? And then Shark and Rabbit show up and even say the same thing.
Although Shark and Rabbit's appearance in this case has that little bear at the bottom.
Yep, and we get a zoom out from a screen that shows a timer on it with the hacking program running, is what it says. And at this point, I have to say it, and I hate saying it because it's always probably the saddest part of the show. Swindler is dead. She is not coming back. She did not swindle her way out of death. Courier and the kids are running through the city to try and get to the exit on the other side of the city that leads to the untouched parts of Japan. The execution division is trying to stop them every step of the way. Eventually, they go towards the execution division itself, thinking there will be less of them there since they're being chased. But there are tanks and executioners there the entire time. The bike gets shot. The kids and Courier crash for a second. And Boss is there to tell them, kill them all. Get the offerings, kill Courier, and let's go. But then the people of the city of Kansai start showing up. And one of them is a little girl. She just walks up to Subordinate, Disciple's new partner. He's like, are you okay? And she pulls out a gun and shoots him in the gut. And she goes, why did you kill my mom? Why did you kill my dad? They didn't do anything wrong. And the entire city shows up. And the police chief comes out of the police station, and Boss turns to him and says, let's do it again! Declare them all Akudama! He's like, yes, this truly is terrible. And goes out like a bitch. For those of you who don't understand the Hellsing Ultimate Abridged reference.
Oh, bust out like a bitch.
Exactly. He gives his Beretta a blowjob. Let's put it that way. And so the people are acting up. They don't want the executioners to be killing anybody anymore because the executioners are clearly doing it wrong. And at one point, the little girl tries to kill Boss. Although, at this point, Disciple disarmed her and even took all the bullets out of her gun. And she says, "Is this justice? Is this the justice we fight for? Because these people are scared of us." And Boss has no answer. And in that opening, Courier takes the kids and takes them running. But his bike's front manifold is starting to overheat. Especially after he lasers down the giant Kansai radio tower on top of the police building to use it as a ramp to get the fuck out of there.
You know, normal bike shit.
Yeah. The purple fuchsia we've been seeing on his bike the entire time has turned red. And it's an indication that his bike is on its last legs. And as they're going out on the outskirts of this snowfield towards this tunnel they know is there that'll lead to this untouched portion of Japan, they're chased by 3 of the large helo drone things that have very big guns trying to kill him and get the kids back. And eventually he has to stop because he's been hit by shots and other things as they've been doing all this. He's hurt. He's not going to last. He sets the kids down next to a tree, gives them the 500 yen piece, and says, "Go." And he turns around to fight these 3 drones. And he manages to take down 2 of them before he starts really getting fucked up. And the last drone is chasing the kids, and it's like it's about to catch them. And he's crashed his bike, and one of the 2 front blades on the front of his bike that extend out to cause the positron cannon to be a thing has broken, and so he can't get it to properly condense charge and fire the laser. But right at that moment, the hacking program hits 0, and all of the electronics in the city malfunction for a second, including the drone. And he takes that point to use his metal arm as the other rail of his cannon and shoot it out of the fucking sky, which was just so good.
I believe the word we used was bad fucking ass.
Yes, absolutely. And the last drone goes down, and brother and sister get to the tunnel, and Courier dies. And with that, our 7 that we began with are all gone. They've all died. In one way, shape, or form, they either had ignominious deaths or heroic ones. But they're all gone. But brother and sister make it through the tunnel, where there's a bright light and some sakura petals on the ground. And as the screen fades to white, the story ends. Mm-hmm. Now, that ending part, that finale, was actually, according to the creators, inspired by Leon the Professional, which I thought was great. Additionally, Kodaka was the one who suggested everybody dies. Rather than having the dilemma of surviving, Kodaka agreed with the team that each character would die without regrets. He also believes that if he wanted to explain what brother and sister do in the Shikoku region of Japan, it would require an entire second series to do.
And to our knowledge, he's not exactly interested in doing that right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that we mentioned that the audio, at the very beginning of all of this, that the audio identity was absolutely fantastic. And it was. The opening and ending are both really well done for an opening and ending. Sometimes there's a tiny bit of mood whiplash with either, but not very much. But the OST overall didn't have some of the things we've seen in other series where you have the big set piece musics that you could just point out and be like, I remember that scene. Mm-hmm. But the music always was stylized to fit our setting and our characters, and always served the purpose of the scene. And that's why the audio identity was so good.
And especially the opening theme, which I believe, like, so let me.
Please hold. The monk is googling.
Um, yeah, it was done. It was done by. It was done by Spark Sound Show. Although, I did remark early on that if I didn't know any better, I would have assumed it was done by Maximum the Hormone.
Yes. I remember that. I was like, yeah, it does kind of sound like Hormone.
Mm-hmm.
But this show, for what it was, this original anime, this doesn't come from another source. This was made for the anime. You know. And
Yeah, anime original. The manga came out well into production.
yep. The for what this small thing is, 12 episodes. It is a pulse pounding and just very inspiring roller coaster. The ups and downs will have you on the edge of your seat the entire time. And I know that we commented this every week. Is it Monday yet?
Yeah. Because if we didn't have the 3 a week rule, we probably could have blitzed through this in about a day.
We could have done that. Like we would have said, hey, let's start that. We would have started at 8 and went. Oh,
we would have gotten through the entire series by about midnight Central Time.
Just about 1 o'clock Eastern. So
yeah,
we would have blown through it. It was that good. Phrasing, I know. Phrasing. Boom.
I see. KR here mentions that every character got their own character songs, and yeah, they did. Everything had a song for its purpose. The city and the various areas of the city had their own OST purposes. The city was as much a character as the characters. No, there is not a one of us who could say that Kansai is not its own character.
And because of that, there's definitely its own identity. And I should note it looks like KR watched it dubbed. We didn't. And as we mentioned before, the reason why is because the final episode has an extended cut that isn't dubbed.
Actually, we were talking as he and I were talking in my server as we were watching show. He's watched it in both.
Well, he's only
Note that he said rewatching. Note that he said rewatching it in the dub in that post.
Fair. But with all of that said, with the story ending and truth be told, it doesn't. This is a story that doesn't need a follow-up, and it shouldn't have one.
Absolutely. The ending was meant to inspire hope because brother and sister got away and are leading into a place where the corrupting influences of Kansai and Kanto do not exist. And that's really a good place to leave it.
Something that I've brought up that you see a lot in cyberpunk and to a certain extent film noir is the idea that you are in the Minotaur's labyrinth. You can move around freely within the labyrinth, but do not get the Minotaur's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that is certainly present here. Even though we had stated that the creator did not view this as a cyberpunk story, which
Well, one of the art directors said that their initial art was not cyberpunk inspired.
I suspect it's a case of they iterated on the artwork multiple times throughout pre-production.
Yeah, the wiki article even goes over that, how they took those initial artworks and then they did throw in some cyberpunk, like I said, Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, because it's always a mix.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're dealing with media in Japanese pop culture, it's always a mix of things. But with that said, I think it's time we render our final judgments.
All right. Well, good brothers here in the Parliament, I shall call upon thee for your verdicts. Brother Matty, tell me what you got.
Folks, I'm not going to waste your time. You heard us gush about it for 2 hours. Or hour and a half, actually. How long will be on the air?
No, you're right. 2 hours.
2 hours? Good. Fun. This is fun. Like, if we didn't have the 3-episode, as Monk said, we didn't have the 3-episode rule, we were bitching that shit. This is weed. This is undisputed weed.
All right, Brother Matty has given us a vote of weeb. Brother Flutter, what do you got for me?
Like Maddie said, this is definitely one of those dumb, fun popcorn anime that you either binge on your own just to kill time, or fuck around and riff with friends. And as we've fervently established, weeb. Like Maddie said, undisputedly weeb.
All right, Brother Flutter has given us a second vote of weeb. Monk, lay it on me.
This is obviously, I'm not going to say dumb fun, but it is definitely fun. There is always, if you're not dealing with balls out action, you're dealing with a whole lot of tension. So it's not a case of expanding and contracting the rubber band, but more of keeping the rubber band at a consistent tension. And because of that, along with the very distinct visual style that it's going to have, I'm going to go with weeb. I will note, however, that some of the critics were fucking stupid on this, especially certain critics who I'm not going to name names that were decided that were supposedly put off by all of the violence. To which I say, if you're put off by violence in anime, go. Go watch Hamtaro or some shit. The adults are talking.
Yeah. If you're put off by the violence in this, go watch Akira and realize how fucking wrong you are.
Look, I've had a pet peeve with people who step into a genre that has its own tropes and then has a surprise Pikachu face when those tropes are utilized. Like say people complaining about fan service in a shonen anime. This is what you get. This is what you're gonna get in a shonen anime. If you don't like it, why are you watching a shonen anime? Or violence in a seinen anime?
Exactly.
Or watercolor in a shoujo manga?
Or hands and arms that are way too long in a fucking shoujo manga.
Mm-hmm.
But legs that won't quit.
But with that, we have 3 votes of weeb including the monk's vote. As for myself, you've already heard me going on and on about this show. The characters, the story, the music, the actors, the visual art style, the sakuga, it's all there. This is, I would say, a perfect storm. And it went unfortunately less noticed, in my opinion.
Yeah, it didn't do well in Japan.
Mm-hmm. it should have done way better in both Japan and the US. This is, as we continually say, indubitably weeb. But on top of that, it is an all-encompassing story that hits all of the notes that I can think of for a really good short story. From a writing perspective, this was a masterclass. And I can't think of anything else to say with more praise than that. And so, with 4 votes of weeb and none of scrub, this parliament finds Akudama Drive to be weeb.
It'll be interesting to see what else he ends up doing, since I'm pretty sure there's some other projects down the road.
I know that he's at least done one other anime, that Tribe 9, which has one of the most interesting inclusions for a dub cast member. A voice
Rosy D?
actor's cat.
Hey, it's better than when Spoonie gave his dog a Twitter account.
Anyway,
But now for what will come next. So let's spin the wheel and make the deal.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn.
Wheel of
big mo-
Reverie.
Come on, big money, big money, big money. No whammies, no whammies.
What'd we get?
Oh, we're getting a classic.
What'd we get?
Megazone 23.
Yeah!
Nice.
All
Yeah.
right.
How many of us have seen Megazone 23? All of us? All of us. All of
I
us?
have not. I have heard
have
good
I.
things, so.
And
Oh. Just Monk and I then.
Yeah, Megazone 23 is very important from a historian perspective. Largely because it's kind of, in a roundabout way, it ended up kicking off the OVA boom of the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. So, before we go too much further, because I know that we always like to bring this up, Akudama Drive is available on Hulu and Crunchyroll, but not for free. You will have to pay for premium.
If you ask us, it's worth it.
Yo. You can also buy it on Amazon, the whole season. As for Megazone, let's look up where this movie is.
For the record, ladies and gentlemen, we are aware that we are still live.
that's
Tubi and Freevee, but it requires us to watch through ads. We can rent it for some pretty nice prices. $1 on Amazon, $2 on Google Play or YouTube, $3 on Vudu. You can also
Weirdly
buy it
enough,
for
the first
$3
two
on
movies have-
Amazon.
weirdly enough. The first 2 movies have streaming options, while the third has nothing.
Now the question is, are we going to watch all of the movies, Monk, or just the first movie?
All of them.
Okay.
So, how many movies is that? 3?
3. Yeah, it's a movie trilogy.
Yep.
All right, folks. See you in a month.
And just to name a few, there are several projects afterwards that that Megazone 23 served as inspiration for, or that comparisons have been drawn from. Stuff like Dark City, which is a very underrated film. The Matrix, Existence, which is also really underrated.
Existence is such a good movie.
And it's it serves as the inspiration for 13 Sentinels, which I refuse to spoil anything on 13 Sentinels. All I will say is, play it or watch its story, and you will thank me later. But that is the plan going forward. Tomorrow and Wednesday, I will be doing interviews with a couple of devs. Thursday, Monarch and I will go through our finale when it comes to Song of Swords in the Valley of the Judged. And Friday, Zan and I will be going through the final parts of Faith, the sci-fi RPG. So please look forward to all that.
All right, Faith as in not Fate Stay Night thing, right?
Faith, Faith.
Okay, good.
There is a Fate RPG. There's actually a couple fan-made ones, but we're not covering those.
Fair enough.
At least not yet. But that is the plan for this week, and of course we will be back with Geek Watch this Sunday. So please look forward to it. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.